Right now, on to the point. The race for the White House.
The team will be the reason we win in November.
Kamala Harris hitting the campaign trail less than a day after Biden drops out. Hear from California delegates endorsing her tonight. And what happens next? The new timeline for the Democratic Party to choose their nominee, plus the calls to leave office.
If everyone acknowledges that he is incapable of running a campaign, then he's clearly incapable of running the country.
What could be coming down the pipeline? Good evening. As always, thank you so much for starting your week with us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell, and we start tonight with your voice, your vote. Less than 4 months before the election, President Joe Biden exiting the race for the White House in a letter to America just yesterday. Following the announcement, many prominent Democrats, including Biden himself, are now showing support for Vice President Kamala Harris. And it comes as Harris spent the day on the campaign trail. Vice President Kamala Harris hitting the campaign trail now as presumptive Democratic presidential candidate Harris.
I have full faith that this team will be the reason we win in November. You all who are here.
And the president himself calling into the event.
The name has changed at the top of the ticket, but the mission hasn't changed at all. And by the way, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be out there in the campaign with her, with Kamala. I'm going to be working like hell.
Earlier today at a White House event for student athletes, her first public comments since President Biden withdrew from the race with a salute to her boss.
Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office.
Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance started his first full week on the GOP ticket, campaigning with a solo event in his hometown near Cincinnati.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, after 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency, or whoever actually is calling the shots in Joe Biden's White House, are we ready to re-elect President Donald J. Trump again?
Vance shared the stage with running mate former President Donald Trump in Michigan over the weekend, polling the crowd as they're now forced to change course.
So who would you like to most run against if you're us, if we want to win? Ready? Kamala Harris. Crooked Joe Biden. All right. I don't think we have to go too much further.
And President Biden says that he plans to campaign in battleground states very aggressively with Vice President Harris as soon as the doctor gives him the all clear for COVID. Meanwhile, there's more reaction tonight from lawmakers and voters about Vice President Harris's run for the White House. Representative Adam Schiff, who publicly called for President Biden to step down, says President Biden will go down as one of the greatest presidents of our time, and that he's, quote, excited to endorse Kamala Harris for president and give her my full support. Nancy Pelosi also released a statement saying in part, quote, my enthusiastic support for Kamala Harris for president is official, personal, and political. Harris has also secured endorsements from key constituencies, including the Congressional Black Caucus. And now many delegates across the country who had previously pledged to support Biden are now switching to Harris. ABC 10's Becca Habegger spoke with California delegates about their decisions.
Yeah, Alex, California has nearly 500 delegates going to the Democratic National Convention next month. One tells me there's been an organized effort by the state party getting delegates on board to support Harris as the nominee. Another tells me he thinks Harris will help energize the party.
I met her when she was Attorney General, and I was a prosecutor earlier in my career, and I admired her tenacity and her ability to get things done.
Alan Gerasi is excited about the prospect of Kamala Harris as president. He'll support her as a California delegate for the Democratic National Convention.
I immediately sent my personal endorsement to the committee chairperson, and I think within a couple of hours, we had a supermajority of delegates in California ready to stand behind Kamala.
After President Biden announced Sunday he would no longer seek re-election and endorsed Harris to take his place, Harris set a new presidential donation record, $81 million in 24 hours.
I'm very excited about all the fundraising that happened yesterday, and that to me was the exclamation point that she's the right person.
She should not be underestimated. Don't count her out. but she is the underdog.
Dan Moraine is a veteran California journalist and the author of Harris's biography, Kamala's Way, An American Life.
This is such a California story.
He writes about Harris's father, who immigrated to the U.S. from Jamaica, and her mother, who emigrated from southern India. Harris went to UC Berkeley, became a prosecutor, and eventually state attorney general, U.S. senator for California, and now vice president.
When she ran for U.S. Senate, she was a very good candidate. Cleared the field. That's not easy to do in California.
There's going to be energy, and she's younger and all these things, but I don't know if we can say this is exactly the path to winning the presidency yet.
Democratic consultant Andrew Acosta has been involved in California politics over the course of more than 30 years. He has seen Harris's wins and losses, including her failed presidential bid back in 2019.
I took my daughter to her rally in Oakland when she launched her presidential campaign. That was probably the highlight of the campaign. 20,000 people there, and then after that, it kind of, sort of imploded.
As for what comes next, he says there's still a lot of polling to be done and questions to be answered.
Look, I'm 55, and the last time a president, stepped out I was 5 years old. It was Nixon, right? So I don't think anybody can say this is what we're going to do because this is what we did last time, because I don't think anyone's been through this before. We're definitely in uncharted territory.
Now, Harris's biographer Dan Moraine also points out Harris joined the prestigious Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority for African-American women during her undergrad years at Howard University, a historically black research university. Now, with that, he says, comes a strong network of influential black women across the country who have mobilized for her on previous campaigns and are doing so again now.
All right, Becca, thank you. And there are still a lot of questions about what comes next for Vice President Harris now that she has been endorsed by President Biden. So here's a short timeline of what we can expect. Party leaders will try to convince delegates to rally around one candidate. The Democratic Party has planned a pre-convention virtual roll call vote to officially nominate Harris. However, it could be delayed or canceled. If there is no vote, the decision will be made at the Democratic National Convention. If there is a vote and no majority, the decision will be made at the DNC. And if there is a vote and it is a majority vote, the nominee will be chosen before the DNC. And if there is no nominee chosen before the DNC, the Democrats would have their first open and contested convention since 1968. And another big question remains of who would be Harris's pick for vice president. ABC News is reporting that she's called more than 100 people, including Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro and Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, who've been floated as possible running mates. She could make history if she becomes the first black woman and Asian American to be the Democratic Party's nominee. In other political news tonight, House Speaker Mike Johnson and several other Republicans are now calling on President Biden to leave office immediately.
If he's not suited to run for office, I'm not sure he's suited to serve the country, continuing in that capacity. They've acknowledged that he has a diminished capacity to do so, and we've all seen that for quite some time.
Johnson says there will be more conversations on the floor this week about the calls for him to resign, including whether they should invoke the 25th Amendment. And you may have noticed in that video that there was protesters running behind Representative Mike Johnson. This is video from D.C. today as protesters gathered outside the Watergate Hotel. The protesters say that their message is to end U.S. aid to Israel, and thousands are expected to gather at the Capitol and across D.C. this week, opposing a visit from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's expected to be in Washington on Wednesday to address a joint session of Congress and to meet with President Biden and Vice President Harris. Also happening on Capitol Hill, tough questions for the director of the Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, as she appeared before the House Oversight Committee today. Cheadle coming under major scrutiny after a gunman attempted to assassinate former President Donald Trump at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, just over a week ago. Lawmakers digging in on why the rally wasn't paused when there were reports of a person of interest an hour before shots were fired.
20 minutes before the shooting began, the state police informed the Secret Service of their concern. Now, the rally was not paused at that point, correct?
No.
Multiple Republicans and at least one Democrat have called on Cheadle to resign over her handling of the attempt, and Cheadle has refused, citing her 30 years of service. The Department of Homeland Security Inspector General has opened 3 separate investigations into what went wrong. The FBI is also leading a criminal investigation. And new tonight, we have just learned that former President Donald Trump has appealed his $454 million civil fraud case in New York. Trump and his co-defendants have asked the New York Appellate Division to overturn February's ruling that found that the former president fraudulently inflated his net worth to secure better business deals. Defense lawyers argued the New York Attorney General Letitia James' case focused on transactions outside of the court statute of limitations, misapplied the relevant law, and resulted in excessive financial penalty. The court is scheduled to consider arguments in the appeal during the last week of September. We still have a lot of news to get to, so still ahead. On to the point, the woman accused of hitting and killing a Vacaville officer appears in court. What a judge has now asked a doctor to do.
Plus, it was hot today. We made it to 107. That's my forecast high for tomorrow, too. Another similarly hot day. When does the heat end? I've got the forecast coming up.
And later, Delta's still feeling the impact from the global tech outage when the CEO says things could return to normal. Welcome back. We have meteorologist Brendan Minchef joining us tonight. A special Monday now that you're here.
Thank you, Alex. Good to be here.
Yes. Now, it was hot outside once again today.
Yes.
We're going to continue to see the warmer temperatures, right?
Yeah, continuing to see warmer temperatures tomorrow, but we also saw thunderstorms again today. And in fact, I'm going to take you towards Plumas County. This is just to the southeast of Quincy. We did see a thunderstorm. You see it there move across the area between about 2:30 and 3:15. Had a lot of lightning with it, and it sparked 2 fires, the Mill Fire and the Smith Fire. So this is a look at the Mill Fire right now from the Alert California wildfire cameras. You can see how active this fire is. Huge smoke plume with this one. This is a pyrocumulus cloud. Another look at the Mill Fire. You can kind of see the fire actually burning here at times. We've seen actually open flames on this camera, and that just goes to show you again how active this fire is with all the smoke associated with it. Looking a little bit to the north from the same camera, this is the Smith Fire. That is the town of Portola right there in Plumas County. So something that we are definitely keeping a very close eye on for the rest of the day and as long as the fire continues to burn. Now, not just the thunderstorms and the fire, of course, also looking at the heat. 103 degrees still in Sacramento right now. 101 in Elk Grove, 103 Stockton, 103 Modesto, 105 up in Marysville, and 90s in the foothills. We made it to 107 this afternoon. It was a hot day. It's going to be a hot start tomorrow as well. Starting in the 70s across much of the valley. Modesto as warm as 76 tomorrow morning. In the low to mid elevations, looking at middle 70s and low 80s starting tomorrow morning. So it'll be hot to start. And once again, we're going to be back near 105, if not above it, across the valley. So another very hot day tomorrow as well. But some good news with all this. We are currently at the climatological peak of summer. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, the average high 95 degrees, the average low about 62 degrees. But it's all downhill from here. It is a slow downhill, of course, because August and September is still typically pretty hot. But climatologically speaking, we are at the hottest point of the year. Some weather impact alert days tomorrow and Wednesday, and for the first half of Thursday as well. Lows start near 70, afternoons near 105, and then we've got some 80s on the way for the coming weekend, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thanks. Next, on to the point, why Solano County residents won't be voting on the new option of a city come November. Plus, the woman accused of hitting and killing a Vacaville officer appears in court. A doctor now to determine whether she can stand trial. New tonight, voters in Solano County will not be voting on the proposed new city, California Forever. Today, the founder and CEO withdrew the measure that was planned for the November ballot. So we are told this was an agreement between the Solano County Board of Supervisors Chair Mitch Mashburn and the founder of California Forever, Jan Stramik. The group now plans to submit an application for a general planning and zoning amendment, as well as an environmental impact report. Mashburn says California Forever will reimburse the county for cost of this work, and we are speaking to people involved in this decision, and we'll have more on this story coming up on Late News Tonight at 11. We are also learning more tonight about the woman accused of hitting and killing a Vacaville police officer, Matthew Bowen. Serena Rodriguez appeared in court today for arraignment, and Alicia Machado was inside the courtroom and joins us with the new developments tonight.
A shocking turn inside the courtroom. The judge ordering a doctor to determine if the suspect is competent to stand trial. We were the only TV station inside the courtroom. Now, I also spoke with the prosecutor who tells me this move significantly delays the case in moving forward. Serena C.J. Rodriguez arrived in court for the second time this month, appearing to smile as she entered the courtroom for arraignment. She pleaded not guilty, denying all enhancements and allegations. The 24-year-old from Auburn is accused of hitting and killing Vacaville police officer Matthew Bowen with her car while he was conducting a traffic stop on Leisuretown Road. In court, the defendant made a request for a substitution of her public defender. The judge cleared the courtroom to speak with her and ultimately denied the substitution. He later suspended proceedings and ordered a doctor to determine if Rodriguez is competent to stand trial. The prosecutor says he believes the move is premature and doesn't think there's enough evidence to show she's not competent. As court wrapped up, Rodriguez could be heard yelling and cursing from a closed booth. Dozens of police officers were inside the courtroom. The community is still reeling from Officer Bowen's death.
It really broke my heart to find out that, he's married and had 2 young children. I can't even imagine what his family is going through right now.
In the weeks since, local businesses rallying to support Officer Bowen, including Pet Supplies Plus in Vacaville. The business located in the Vacaville Commons is holding a dog wash fundraiser August 2nd through 4th in honor of Officer Bowen. For owner Rick Mrose, this line-of-duty death hits close to home.
I started with the Fairfield Police Department about a little bit over 18 years ago. I've basically been on patrol my entire career. It's just about maybe trying to help alleviate one less issue for the family.
He says the dog washes are free and customers are asked to make a donation to the cause. All proceeds will go to Officer Bowen's family. Back here at Solano County Superior Court, the topic will be revisited in mid-August. In Fairfield, Alicia Machado, ABC 10.
Officer Bowen will be laid to rest tomorrow. The memorial service will be private, but will be live streamed online. The community is encouraged to line the procession route to pay their respects, and you can find all the details of the route on our website, abc10.com. Tonight, neighbors in Midtown Sacramento are on edge after a fast-moving fire threatened their homes. The fire by 27th and E Streets was spotted by our photographer from I-80 around 11:30 this morning. Neighbors who live in the area say that they heard a popping sound and went outside to see power lines snap. The cause of the fire is under investigation still. And then out in Placer County, the sheriff's office is investigating after someone broke into a gun store and stole 50 guns. It happened early this morning at Foothill Firearms along Taylor Road. Deputies say at least one person ripped the siding from the store and created a hole to tunnel into the building. They say the person took off with guns but no ammo. No word yet on a description of the person involved. And as always, it's time to get your price points tonight. Tonight, we are learning more about the impacts from the CrowdStrike outage just last week. Microsoft now says 8.5 million machines were affected worldwide after a faulty update was issued. And right now, efforts are underway to return some services, some of those at Delta Airlines, which is still trying to get back to their systems, get them back online. The company had to cancel over 1,200 flights on Sunday alone and has already canceled hundreds more for today. Delta's CEO saying in part it could take another couple of days before the worst is clearly behind us. Next, on To the Point, more concerns about SeaQuest, the popular Folsom Zoo and Aquarium. Hear what nearly 20 former employees are saying. SeaQuest in Folsom. It's a popular zoo and aquarium because customers can pet and feed animals. After our first investigation aired in February, nearly 20 former employees came forward to sound the alarm, saying that SeaQuest corporate team prioritizes money over animal care. Take a look.
It's directly animal exploitation that SeaQuest is profiting from.
Raise your hand if you saw an animal die at SeaQuest.
This corporation is run by business people, not animal experts.
We have to all be the voice for these animals.
90% of the time, they weren't getting fed. This is from yesterday. Tortoise's supposed to eat all of this. This is from yesterday.
Children and parents are sticking their hands in that tank, and then they're taking their contaminated hand to another tank.
We went to management and we said, go lock yourself in a bathroom that's about 2 by 2, and that's what you're putting the sharks in.
That is a molded parakeet body. She wasn't eating. They still had guests see her like this.
The animals are getting stressed because that room is literally filled to the brim with people.
Seeing people line up 1,000 in front of the shop definitely doesn't give you a lot of faith in the public.
This isn't like some over-dramatized thing. Like, this is legit.
Unfortunately, right now, with a bunch of the wildlife laws, SeaQuest wins. We need our voices heard.
You can watch our full investigation this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. right here on To The Point. Before we go, I do want to mention the Associated Press is reporting that Kamala Harris has support of enough Democratic delegates to become the party's presidential nominee. We'll have more coming up tonight on Late News Tonight at 11. Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.